Thanks for listening to Leadership Level Up. I'm your host, Dr. Jeff Williamson, and whether you are just starting your leadership journey or have led others for decades, this podcast aims to shine a spotlight on those who lead others and share their guiding principles that have made them great leaders. Welcome to Leadership Level Up podcast. I'm your host, Jeff Williamson, and it's always good to have you with us. We love talking leadership, and we have a leader with us today who I'll introduce to you in just a second. But it's good to have Demetri Morris with us. He is the founder, CEO of MORR, M-O-R-R, as you can see on his lovely swag. So here in a minute, we'll give him a chance to tell us a little bit more about his story and some of his journey to being a leader and now operating a company that is doing work all over the place with, I think, 15, 20 people working for MORR. So welcome to the show. It's good to have you.
What's happening? Dr. Jeff, the legend. That's right.
I keep telling you not to say that, but you just do it anyway. So
everybody listening, Dr. Jeff is a legend. Everybody, you walk up and see him in Safari, say, "What's up, legend?" That's him. Come on now.
All right. One person calls me that, and it's Demetri, but I appreciate it. So, just a quick intro on my side of things is that I was thinking earlier today, I think I've known you for about 8 years, something like that.
Wow. Yep.
By way of a little background on his bio, as I mentioned, he's the founder and CEO of MORR, which is based in Nashville, Tennessee. And he's a graduate of Olivet Nazarene University here in Illinois. That's where our paths crossed. And he is a graduate with a Bachelor of Science in Management Information Systems. So the tech, the computers, the programs, some of the things that are really the architecture behind a lot of what you do are some of the things you started with. But just great to have you. You know, I love talking to entrepreneurs, as you know. How old were you when you started this thing? You were a wee lad.
I think I was 18, 19,
Mm-hmm.
Wild.
Yep. Yeah, I think my math of 8 years ago would have been your first semester of college, and you graduated in 2020. So that would have been sometime fall 2016. So I had it about right, 8 years back. And so you started, first of all, more in the, no pun intended, more in the space of you were doing primarily video projects, I think, and you've grown
Correct.
since then. But tell us, some of those foundational early projects that you worked on.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, a lot of it started really from church. So I was really well involved in a church up in the suburbs of Chicago. Really just focused on helping their music ministry, which was producing some really cool music, get themselves on social media, brand, that kind of thing. So I kind of act as a creative director for my church's music ministry. Some of you guys might be familiar with the song "Make Room." I will make room for you. Anyways, that song's from my church. They wrote that song. And that was really when I took some ownership over seeing what I was capable of, because that song went on to get over, now totaled above probably like 40 million streams. It's insane. That song went worldwide.
That's cool.
But being a part of that was the foundation. And then just being a part of a church where there's a lot of people that were in business. There's a lot of really cool men to look up to at the church I went to. So I would get coffee with people, ask them what they did, how they did it, mindset, that kind of thing, how they practice self-improvement. And that's kind of where I got the first client. The first client was actually a tennis league that needed a promotional video. At that time, I had no video production equipment. I didn't even own a camera, but I knew somebody that owned a camera. And I said, "Dude, there's this guy. His name is Steve. He needs a video. I don't know what we're going to do, but
help me, please."
Already sold him. Do you want to shoot this Friday?
Yeah.
And he said yes. And that was the first video. Turned out great. Got to use a drone for the first time, but that spun into doing some, that was the beginning of a lot of cool stuff. So since we've been able to work with brands like Uber, Chick-fil-A, Adidas, US Foods, IT Supplies, other cool brands, just helping them understand what it means to operate in a modern day business environment. And so That's marketing, that's technology, that's the works.
And that was all
But
before 20 years old, basically. Well, I mean, you're getting started was
getting started. Yeah.
18,
Really
19.
fall 2018 is when when the engines turned on, and that's when I kind of
so you're like,
started to see
hey,
this as,
I might be pretty good at this. I think I can
there's
do
there's a
this.
little of confidence. I don't think I showed it externally necessarily, but there was some confidence with seeing the make room pop off, which was cool. So
yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Anyways.
Yeah. I didn't mention off the top, but you are also a musician besides some of your work on the production and media side. I early on saw you slapping a bass and playing some good music, and you've had opportunities to do that going back to your church there in Naperville and other places since.
Totally, yeah. Well, yeah, just even being here in Nashville, like there's CCM artists that you might hear on K-Love just casually walking into church, and so just being able to be in that environment.
Yeah, so you're surrounded by musicians and creatives, which just feeds that, I would think, for you.
Totally, yeah. So it's been a good environment here in Nashville, which is wild because that stems from being a part of that church in Naperville. So
yeah, you never know the network or the connectivity of people and places maybe far away that lead us to where we are now, right? It's pretty amazing. Yeah, very cool. So you started your work, as you mentioned, 2016, 17. You're a young guy. And what kind of drove you toward the management information systems? Did you see that as like, hey, that's something that kind of resonates with me, so I'll do that as an academic sequence while I'm building this business? Kind of unpack that a little bit for me.
There's a few reasons. It's kind of funny. One would be my grandfather, Demetri Morris.
Who's one of the coolest dudes I know. I'm serious.
Dudes.
Your
he's probably outside right now in long sleeves, mowing the lawn. Anyways, but he's a cool dude. But he always was like, do something that's going to make a lot of money. I'm just gonna be honest. That's what he was always like.
Software and technology.
I was like, all right. So every few weeks he'd clip out something from the newspaper with like, computer science is the way to go. So he'd like try to sell me through high school, like on studying computers. So it was my grandfather, and then my cousin, Michael Brown, who was one of the first black leprechauns at Notre Dame. He studied management information systems himself. So as my grandfather was trying to persuade me, he was like, you need to meet with your cousin Mike. And so we got breakfast. And
there you go.
At that breakfast, that's when I was like, all right, I'm doing it. So management information systems. Thank you, Poppy. Thank you, Mike. That's why I studied it. There's no other reason than that, because I am not complete on nerd, but I got through it somehow.
But how cool is that? Your pops and your cousin. You say Michael's your cousin?
Cousin Mike Brown.
Right there in your family, you had some early mentors that said, hey man, you might want to think about this as a pathway that you've now woven into your profession with a whole lot of other things that we'll talk about too.
Totally. Absolutely. So
your pops is the coolest. Absolutely. I had a chance to meet his grandfather for the first time at their wedding a couple of years ago in Tennessee. And I just heard so many legendary stories about your pop. And so it was a real treat to meet him. That was not on our plan for the day, but I still want to say, hey, your pop is the best.
Good dude.
Yeah,
good dude.
Absolutely. Yeah. So you had different projects going. You started doing business. You started doing, selling projects and hiring people to help you with those. And I can remember, this is one of the benefits I get of knowing you through your college years. I can remember one time we were having one of many cups of coffee. And at that point, I think, you can correct me, but I think you were maybe thinking, I don't know if I can do this production media video kinds of thing. And you're like, Doc, I just don't think I can go to work and just spend my days in a cube. And I said,
remember exactly where we were. We were in Paris.
Was that where we were? And I said, then don't. If you can't see something for your life that just I think you were thinking of it as almost like I'm being sent to prison if I have to work in a cube and not do creative things in all kinds of places. And that's such a touchstone conversation to me of thinking back of where you were sorting some of this out and going, man, I don't think I want to do this in the more, no offense to those that are in the corporate side, but you were just man, I don't think that's not for me. And it's turned out that it hasn't been, and you've done so many other good things. So talk a little bit about that.
Hashtag unemployable. No, I think it's been
clearly
instrumental just because, I don't know. I think when you have some sort of confidence from seeing something go well, like you should investigate it. I think a lot of people might overlook something that God has for them just based off of their own insecurity or their environment. And so I have a tattoo. Okay. I talk about this tattoo sometimes, and the tattoo says block out the noise. And I think a lot of people need to do that because if you detach yourself from your environment just a little bit, you'd start to hear your own voice. You start to hear what God's saying to you instead of all these distractions that you into doing something that you're just not passionate about. And so I felt that just based off of a few internships I did. I was like, I am not going to do this the rest of my life. Hate their job. They're here for equity and a paycheck. And I just, that was never my mentality.
Not going to be your path. Yeah. And so clearly you didn't go that pathway. And you mentioned some of the, companies that you've done work for, just now 4 years out of your college experience, doing some great things. You mentioned your cousin and your grandpa who have been key mentors for you. I know you did a summer, I think it was in San Francisco or LA. You did an internship there, and I think that had a big impact.
Yeah, this goes back to that environment I kind of created, I was meeting people that saw me on stage playing at church, and that opened the door to kind of just ask them about their life. So one of the people, Bill Shaw, this is dated in 2024, we're filming this, but currently he's at Coronix. He's chief revenue officer. At the time he was at a company called Exobionics, a publicly traded company, but he brought me on as his first intern. He was brought on to basically revamp their commercial go-to-market organization, make things better because they were struggling. And that experience alone, just again, it's like was able to basically turn their marketing qualified leads around. Like it was just, at the end of the day, a experience where again, God was like confirming, hey, you're capable, like don't doubt yourself and stuff.
Yeah. And so you came out of that summer.
People like that have
confident.
taken risks to, give that opportunity away.
Yeah. And I think you came out of it, as I'm thinking back, I think you came out of it too and learned that some of the things you thought would work really worked in what you were doing for Bill's company and many since then. But again, that experience of, I think this can really change things for you, and then see that prosper for them to then go, okay, I think I'm starting to get this figured out a bit, and I can do this for other companies over and over again, which obviously is part of what MORR is doing now. So, if you fast forward from when we were first friends in 2016 to now, MORR is your company, and share with us some of the things you guys are doing besides the ones that you mentioned off the top of the show.
Yeah, really, we're doing a lot of stuff, but the core of the business that I view it as is building strategy playbooks. And so we finished writing a book called The Strategy Playbook, and we created a workshop where we're basically taking a deep dive on where any given client might be at in their journey, diagnosing. We're taking more time than, the typical 30-minute discovery call, with the goal to really unlock some things that might change the trajectory of their business. And so we've done that a handful of times and it's been successful. But really the goal of what we're doing is pushing businesses to see the way they do business as more than just a transaction, and really as a true relationship, right? It's bigger than just the exchange of money. And so that shift is not just in a way where they market themselves differently, and they, they're it's not just that they're proud of that they have a good product. It's that top down, there's this alignment of the fact that, like, you can't take your customers for granted, and if you really invest into the lifetime value of the customer, you're going to do things probably a lot differently than you're doing it now. And you see behind me, there's 100 something boxes. Like, we gift the clients randomly, or people we want to get in touch with, just because we understand that they don't have to give us their business. We're not entitled, and you could probably do a scan of the market and think of all the businesses that don't take that LTV serious. They're going down, and it's unfortunate. But it comes down to ego. And so breaking down that ego really for us is the only way we're able to get to the real root of a lot of businesses' issues. And really with one or two decision tweaks, like, that's where we've seen a lot of change. And so centered around, again, human first business, not money first. It's really different in the way you think about it.
Yeah, I'd love to hear more too, because you've talked for at least a couple of years, maybe longer, about humanizing brands and making brands more human. And a part of it is, it's not just a transaction. There's trust. There's delivery of the things you promise. There's, the nice surprises when somebody gets a nice gift box and goes, wow. A lot of people don't do that, but MORR does that. So tell us more about that, because it's such a differentiator, I think.
Yeah. And something I've said and coined is that if your brand isn't becoming more human, it's likely dying. And I think the world we live in demands authentic, human, differentiated brands. And the only way to do that is by taking an honest, thorough look at your company and understanding exactly what necessary changes need to take place in order for you to really stand out. And so, again, like, this goal to fully humanize your brand, it's understanding to a T what makes you different, and being objectively honest if what you're doing is nothing special, and then understanding, okay, what steps could we take to do something that makes us stand? It's really practical. It's just like, are we hitting the mark? Yes, no. Okay. If not, then let's make changes. And so our goal is really I would put us into the box of digital transformation, really taking a business that might have historically done things in a way that, they are so convinced that is working, but based on little data, you can see that it's not doing anything for them, and shifting the way they do that specific thing, and then creating this growth loop around it, so that once they're able to start seeing a result in that specific change that they need to make, it affects so many different areas of the business. So it's like this flywheel of shifting something that doesn't lead to anything. Does that make sense? We're literally just looking for that one thing where, whether, again, it's like, think back to the experience with Exo Bionics where I was the intern. I was just being honest. I was like, you guys, whatever you're doing for your marketing is not good, right? So I put together a whole new playbook. I put together a whole new game plan, and then boom, like, they're getting marketing qualified leads for some really intense, like, big clients, And so how do you do that? It's being honest, understanding what's going to resonate, making the change. That's it.
Good stuff.
Hopefully that's not fluffed up, but that's kind of my, at least, thought process.
No,
how do you create accountability around that? It's just being honest. That's it.
Yeah. And I think too, a part of where you're talking about humanizing brands and the relationship or the trust between clients and your team is also, what if other companies aren't willing to do these things? Well, that's a differentiator, right?
Yep.
And, I would go back to a conversation that I was working with a client, and he said that at their weekly meeting, they had one of their agenda items was client love. I'm like, okay, what's that? He said, we just every week pause and think, is there anything coming up this next week where we can show some love to our clients? And it's things like, oh, well, there's a birthday, or there's an anniversary, there's a family, there's having a new child, or they just got a big promotion at their company, whatever. So they intentionally every week think about, what are some things we can do to show love to our clients? And honestly, most folks out there are not willing to prioritize that. What would you say to the person that says, yeah, that sounds good, but we're just too busy to do that?
Well, I would say that's unfortunate.
Mm-hmm. Thought you might.
That's where I would start. That's unfortunate, but I would just urge to consider what it looks like to what might you be missing out on investing in that client? Because when we've done it, it's turned into more dollars in the door, right?
Yeah,
so we've taken our clients out to Top Golf. We've catered, we've spontaneously catered their office, with food for a day.
It's appreciation.
A few months later, they're like, "Hey, I saw that post you guys put out. We'd be interested in trying out. We want to launch our own podcast, or we want to let's we've been doing this one strategy. Let's add on this. Like, you never know what. Again, it goes into that lifetime value of a client if you're willing to go the extra mile.
Yeah.
So I think those little nuances make a true difference.
Pleasant surprises for your clients is what that sounds like.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's not really, you're one good interaction away from losing your client. Like, think about it. The one person that's like really got their stuff together and like impresses your client. Maybe they're a little bit more cost affordable. That client might say, well, you guys have been good, but it hasn't been like amazing. And I think a lot of people are content with just being good. And again, that's where it's just, there's an opportunity, there's money on the table by going after trying to be amazing. And I don't think there's a point where you'll ever be able to fully say it, but I think you'll have data points to know that you're heading in the right direction.
Yeah. So get as close as you can to that wow kind of thing to where, rather than to save a buck, maybe here and there, someone will say, they're not the cheapest in town, but I've had such a positive relationship with their staff, with their team. They've, over-delivered on projects they've done for me. And so, no way I'm going to leave them to save $50 a month or something like that.
Yeah. And the thing is, the reason why I harp on this is because most people are capable of delivering a decent product, right? It's like, if you go to McDonald's, if you order a McChicken, you're going to get a McChicken. But like, the difference maker is, did that person smile at you? It's like the Chick-fil-A effect. It's like, if you go to a really good Chick-fil-A that's operated by a good owner, you're going to leave being like, dang, like, I got some Chick-fil-A, but I also feel like going and loving on some people because they love them. You know what I'm saying? It's just a different experience. And then you go look at their reviews. You're going to see the difference. Then the one that just hires people that are there for the paycheck, and they got AirPods in their ears, they're listening to music as they're bagging food. Like, there's a difference, and that you can translate that into a B2B environment. It's not just fast food. This is like, do your people show up, like with understanding of what working with purpose and urgency looks like, and does that translate into the client outcomes, right? I think being an effective communicator with passion and serving others is what again, is a separator. Then, it's not just marketing. It's not just technology. It's like it's the full experience. And if you can provide the full experience, you're going to win.
Yeah. Yeah. Man, I think that's a good exclamation point to our conversation. I'm always amazed how quickly our time goes. But that's some good stuff. Those are some good nuggets that I think people are really going to benefit from when they hear this episode. So we'll look forward to having you back again soon.
Go.
And thanks so much for taking the time to be with us on Leadership Level Up. We'll look forward to the next time.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Thanks for listening, folks. We'll see you next time. Thanks for listening to Leadership Level Up. Please subscribe so you don't miss future conversations with great leaders. If you would like to learn more about executive coaching and team development, please go to convergegroup.io for more information.